Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. We know that there are many challenges in leading and building teams. But what if your team is separated by over 100 miles in two locations on opposite sides of the state? Well, my guest today, Keri Kujala, is a partner in Special Occasions, a company that provides perfectly curated rental items, such as tables, chairs, and linens, that make corporate and private events unforgettable. And Special Occasions has two locations on opposite sides of the state of Michigan. So, here to talk about the challenges that presents and other team and leadership insights, welcome Keri Kujala. Keri, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
Oh, this is going to be fun. So tell me more about Special Occasions. I need to say right out the gate, and we're going to have a link in the show notes. I went to your website and the photography is gorgeous. Those pictures just make me want to go to those events. I don't even know where they are and if I'd be invited or not, but I want to go. It's just so beautiful. So tell me more about what you guys do.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to make a memorable event. Our team, we are event rental and designers. So we basically work with three different types of people. It can be individuals, it could be planners, and also a lot of corporate clients. And so basically they'll come into us and we'll work with them to design a beautiful event. Special Occasions, we own specialty linens, chairs, tables, napkins, you name it. And we work to make sure that it's a detailed, beautifully curated event.
So you have, it sounds like, some unique items. What else about Special Occasions makes you unique?
We are so proud of the experience that we have at Special Occasions. Our team really is knowledgeable with events beyond just renting something. We know a lot of the questions to ask. So myself, along with my business partner, we were in events for 15 plus years prior to purchasing Special Occasions. So we know a lot of the questions and the tricks and the way to get the best bang for your buck and to make the most amount of wow experience. And so we work really hard with all of our clients to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah, you were in events for a long time. So what led you into event rental?
Yeah, well, like I said, I had a good 15-year run with events and loved it. Day in, day out. I think what really attracts me to events, and has always, is the different pace. And it's always a fast pace. You have to be up for just about anything. And I loved it. But I did get to that 15-year mark where I was ready for something new, and really working with events and corporate clients and other planners gave me the opportunity to work on the other side of planning the events. So it's just been a really fresh new take with events.
Okay. So how did you guys actually get started? Did you have to go buy things, or like what was the process to actually open the doors on Special Occasions? And then how did you get those first clients?
Sure. This was an interesting one. So the business actually was started by two separate sisters on different sides of the state of Michigan. So they were two completely different entities. And at the time, my business partner found out that one of them was getting ready to sell, and then learned that the other one was getting ready to sell as well. And so she thought, you know what, I'm ready to do this, but I need a business partner. And so that's when she approached me and we were ready to take it on. So it started off as two completely separate entities, and then we purchased them together and merged them together, which came with a lot of benefits, but also a lot of work that came with that. We were working with two completely separate teams that worked on two different platforms. They all had their own process on everyday tasks. And we were walking in as brand new owners trying to figure out, okay, how are we streamlining everything? How are we figuring this out? The shops themselves are about 2 hours away. So really understanding, how are we going to make this work? And how are we merging these teams along with all of the inventory?
So two sisters had similar businesses, but in two different cities. And you and your
Right.
partner bought out each of them and then merged it. Did I get that right?
That's right. That's right. And it came with a whole set of lovely, interesting stories and scenarios because one sister would call um, one shade raspberry and the other one would call the shade fuchsia. And so we were working, 2 hours away to compare all of these colors to like bring these colors together and say, are these the same thing? Are these different things? And so coming up with a complete database system of all of our inventory. So we worked with, we did some hunting for an inventory system that could accommodate our 2 locations, but then understanding, are these the same things? Doing all the counting, the comparing, everything else. So yes, it was definitely a very fun and interesting experience.
Okay. So in those early days, years, whatever, were you guys like divide and conquer and you split it up like the 2 sisters did? Or were you together traveling to both back and forth to both locations?
So early on, we had a couple advisors really work with us, and they said the most important part, if you are going to be business partners in this, is that you understand and you develop your roles. You need to know who's in charge of which part. So understand your lanes and stick to your lanes. That's going to be the most important part. So my business partner and I, we developed that. We came up with exactly who was in charge of what, and we treated both of them together. So I knew which parts she would take care of, and she knew which parts I would. And it didn't matter on which location. That was the role throughout the entire location and business itself.
Okay. And so which is what, how did you divide? What's your role and what's her role?
Yeah.
And has that changed?
Yeah. No, not really. We really have stuck to, and it really works for us. So my role is more of the inventory. I do a lot of the ordering. If we need to bring in new inventory, I set up the entire inventory system. I also do all of the marketing and branding, any PR for the organization. And then Jamie's role is more of the business finance aspect of that. She does a lot of the hiring and working with the teams. And also does all of the scheduling as well. So it's a really great system we have. We work really well together. We like to call ourselves the perfect 10. We love following the Enneagram, and she is a 3 and I am a 7. And so together we call ourselves the perfect 10. And we can really level each other out as far as making decisions. And I will tell you that Jamie and I, 9 times out of 10, make the exact same decision. And the way I get there is one path. And the way my business partner, Jamie, gets there is a different path. But together, we almost always end at the exact same ending point.
Wow. Well, that makes, I guess, things a little bit smoother. And it's so great to hear. It sounds like you guys really complement each other well, that you've got different skill sets, but you appreciate each other and know that you're going to work together. And then as a bonus, you come to the same conclusion just from different paths. So
right.
That's
Absolutely.
That's terrific. Well, so tell me about your current team now. What kinds of roles do you have,
Sure.
and what kinds of things are people doing, and how long have people been there? All those kind of things.
Yeah, currently we have 23 employees. 15 of those are full-time and then 8 are part-time. That can range anywhere from we have front desk associates, and then we also have designers. We have people who work in our laundry room. So being that we do rentals, we actually do all of the cleaning, the pressing, the spot treating right on site at both of our locations. So that means we have a lot of hands on deck when we're doing a lot of these big events. We also have staff that will do deliveries and setups. And late night pickups as well. So we are all trained in different areas. However, we are very much so cross-trained to help each other out and to jump in when events can flux. And that's the interesting part about events as well. We like to try to forecast what's going on, but it is hard for us to forecast if our huge corporate event XYZ, company XYZ is going to have their event this year. We hope that they'll have it next year, but we're not in charge of all of that. So we do have to be really flexible in everything that we're doing, and making sure that we're making really smart hiring decisions. So we have a lot of different roles, but again, like to be cross-trained. And being in a group, a business with 23 individuals, it does put us at that cusp of, we're a small business, but we are doing a lot of high-end events, and we are super busy. So it's this small business feel, but it does have a large business feel to it as well.
Yeah, it sounds like. And now, geographically, how far apart are the two locations?
They're about 2.5 hours.
Okay, so you don't have, or maybe you do. Do your teammates, are they, do they work at both locations, or are they pretty much segregated? This is the one team and this is the other team?
They're generally assigned to a location. However, on some of our busier weekends, there could be a time where we will swap, or we'll say, meet us halfway. We really do service the entire state of Michigan. So we're servicing events in between and beyond. So oftentimes it doesn't matter which location you're assigned to, you just head out to where the event is at. So it really gives us the opportunity to work with all of our staff members at all different times, and they all get the opportunity to work together. It's good.
Oh, that's really nice. So, well, with the two locations, like what other challenges as a leader does that present to you to have those teams that does sound like they come together sometimes, but they're also somewhat separate? And what do you have to do to keep that train on the tracks?
There's definitely, when we started, a culture shift that we needed to make. And I won't even say a culture shift, but there were two different cultures like you're going to have in any corporation. So when we came on, everyone had their process down and set, and we really needed to come in and say, okay, let's learn, let's understand, let's take what works from one location and let's try it in the other location. We have all the same machines and equipment. We have all the same tasks. We have all the same products. Let's see what works best. And it really did give us the opportunity to look at how both of the businesses were running and then to pick those best processes and really understand, what are we going to do with those? And so we come up with a list, like, how does it work? There's a lot of room for error when it comes to rental. Sometimes my business partner, Jamie, and I say, we could have done something easy like retail where it's out the door, but it's like retail on steroids because it goes out the door and then it needs to come back, it needs to be washed, and then it needs to go out the door to the next person. And as you can imagine, there can be lots of challenges with that. If something gets ruined, like you have a candle that burns a hole in your linen and someone else has that rented for the next week, you need to problem solve. So there's a lot of interesting things and ways that we resolve all of this. And also, because we have two different locations, we have two different warehouses. So we're able to treat all of our inventory as one. And actually, our vehicles do a transfer once a week. So on Wednesday afternoon, they will do a swap of items and understanding where everything is located and if it is dirty, if it needs to be washed and cleaned. It's a whole process on understanding what goes out the door, where it's at. So really tracking everything. And I mean everything.
Yeah, those are some really interesting logistical challenges. I think of, like you mentioned, retail. Right. You've got inventory and you keep track of the inventory so you know what you have so you can sell it once. But you guys need to keep track of it so it goes out the door and then keep track of it coming back in so that you can sell it again. It's just, that's got to be really, really challenging. So I want to hear more about that and some of the lessons you've learned. We'll do that on the other side of the break. Stay with us on the Clarity Advisor Show.
Is your business where you want it to be or on track to get there? Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. Today we're talking with Keri Kujala of Special Occasions, and we're just talking about some of the challenges of having that inventory that not only has to get kept track of to go out, but to come back and go out again. Logistics is fascinating to me, and to have to do that over and over with the same stuff, and then yeah, like you said, something gets damaged and now you got to figure out what you're going to do to recover. So you have your own team and you've got your challenges. We talked about that with the 2 different cities and in different locations for events and so forth. But you see a lot of events. You see a lot of teams and organizations in action. So what are some things that you observed over the years that were like, yeah, that's good. I need to, try that with my team, or wow, that's craziness. And just kind of both lessons and examples from seeing other teams in action.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that I see very strong teams work on is the evaluation of an event. Oftentimes, you will see someone put on an event, and from being on both sides of an event, from being the planner and the person that executed every single detail, to now being more of an assist part of all of those details, we see a lot of times when coordinators or planners are maybe not as in tune with delivery times or understanding how logistically everything needs to come in, because, simple things like clearly your table linen needs to arrive before your florist does, because your linen has to be on the table before anything else can go on the table. So it's a lot of those logistics. And one thing that I see very smart, strong teams doing is evaluating. In my role, when I was doing corporate events and fundraising events, I had an entire 17-page review that I would fill out after every event. And I think understanding and making sure that your event has a sense of purpose. And sometimes that's, we're going to have a wedding and it's going to be great. And that's what it is. I want my guests to have a great time. But sometimes if you're doing a fundraising event, understanding, like, how are you going to evaluate that? And I do know some organizations will say, okay, well, how many people came? Is that how we evaluate it? Or how much money did we raise? And those things are not equal. And so when I was evaluating, we would have a point system, and I encourage anyone who is putting on an event to come up with your point system. How many attendees did you have? How much PR did you have? And assign a point system to that. How important is that for you? What types of guests did you attract to your event? And not all guests are equal. So for corporate or fundraising, I would say how many people from our board came, how many physicians attended that were part of the hospital system that I was putting it on for, how many donors. Sometimes I would say how many repeat guests were there, how much money was raised. So all of these really come together, and then understand how successful the event was. The other thing is asking your either volunteers or other people that are working, and asking your guests, how did it go? Because a lot of times, if you are the person that is putting on the event, you're not seeing some of the long lines, or you're not seeing some of the snafus that happen. And unless you ask for it, you're not necessarily going to have a guest come up to you and go, hey, just so you know, this happened. But I do encourage people to ask, because nothing can turn you off more than having to wait in the parking lot in a long line to get into an event. And that has nothing to do with resources. You don't have to be a fancy organization. You need to plan properly. You need to go through the steps and understand what your guests are going through, what that looks like for them, and put on your Disney hat. I mean, Disney does it best. If you're going to wait in a line, make it great waiting in the line. Hand out cocktails or provide some entertainment. So come prepared and be flexible with making sure that everyone's having a really outstanding experience. And then visually, we love dressing tables and making it a unique experience. So make sure that your guests are leaving with a unique experience. Visually when you walk in, like that's your first impression. Like, how does it look? And that doesn't need to mean that you're spending, loads of money. It's just strategic on how you're doing everything. So we love to work with our clients on a lot of those details.
Well, I love the idea of gathering the surveys and the feedback, as Ken Blanchard said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And as you said, you can't see everything. You can't be everywhere. And most people, especially Midwest polite, right? They're not going to come up to you and say, hey, by the way, it was like a 10-minute wait to go to the bathroom. Nobody's going to do that to you, but you want to know those things. And so if you give them that survey and you can collect that information, I think that's just such good advice for so many aspects of business. You can do that even after meetings. Like, how did we think that went? How do we get better? You can't improve if you don't know what's not working. And since we're not going to be able to see and know everything, you got to ask. So I think that's great. So did you inherit your team when you bought the business?
Yes, we did get a team that came along with our business. So, which, is tough. They had two former owners. And so coming in, like really understanding and learning the business, you have to tread lightly. You have to be careful. You need to show respect for the business, show respect for those who are working. So yes, we did have a team that came in with that. And we also understood that we needed to put some things into place. And we understood that it's going to work for some employees, and for other employees, they don't want to be there. And that's okay too.
Yeah. So as you grew the team then over the years and people maybe opted out and you brought in new people, what were some of the things that worked for you as a leader as you grew that team?
Definitely recording a process. The whole idea behind everything is, if you walk out and get hit by a bus, does someone know how to pick up the pieces? And so, you only have to learn the hard way a couple times. If you just can't take that information with you in your head. And we learned that actually, we are two general managers on each side of the state. We're both pregnant with their very first, due a week apart of each other. And so my business partner and I, we knew, like, okay, we're going to be stepping into their roles. And that was what we stressed. We want to make sure that all of the details are recorded and that we can take this on. And so that when they're ready to pick up and come back, they know what we're talking about. We know what, vice versa. But because there are so many moving parts to all of this, it's the whole idea you record it down. You write as many details as absolutely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. People can't read minds. And like you said, if something happens to someone or they can't be there, now nobody seems to know what to do. Yeah, I'm such a fan of checklists and planning and documentation and systems and process. It's got to be repeatable. That doesn't mean people are robots. People are going to bring their authentic selves to it. But in terms of like getting the work done and knowing it's going to be right every time, especially for you as someone who's presenting essentially to clients, that you've got to put on a show, it's got to be right. It's got to be spectacular and beautiful. You've got to have everything, all the details add up. And so you want to make sure you don't miss anything. So yeah, I'm right there with the idea of documentation. So thanks for sharing that. Right. So Keri, you've been leading teams for a while and been around teams for a while. What do you see that's different about leading teams today?
Really understanding what your teams want, what motivates them, what excites them. I did mention we do the Enneagram. So we all really understand what number we fall under, and how we can best communicate together. And that's helpful for our entire team to understand, like, when a message is sent through, how would the other person interpret that, or how do we work together? And so that's one way that our team really stays strong in understanding communication style. But the other thing is really understanding generations and what your generations want. When Jamie and I first started, we bought the business. We had a more mature generation, and we would offer late night pickups, which is basically when our team would go out at the very end of the night, midnight, 11:30, whatever that looks like at the end of the party, and pack up everything. So that could be 200 chairs or linens, or they tear it all out and bring it back. And in the past, the team would fight over that with seniority. So seniority was given that opportunity. And That was the way that it was decided who worked all these late nights. Well, recently, I mean, I guess I'll say after COVID, when everyone was really struggling to find associates, we finally have a really great team, but many of those team members are part of the Gen Z generation. And what we've found is that we would offer these opportunities to work these late nights, which is great money, by the way. I mean, when you do a late night pickup, we want to make sure it's inconvenient and it's in the middle of your night. So we make sure that we pay well. But we're finding that this group was not keen on those late nights. And so one conversation that we have been having just recently is really understanding what this group wants and asking questions, would more money tempt them? And what we're learning that with this group, more money is not tempting to them. Their time is really valuable. And so we have started exploring an option where we offer them possibly point systems. So if you do work a late night, then you're given points to possibly use as an hour of personal time in an upcoming week. And that piqued the interest of our staff. So we're kind of working through on how we really make this a job that our employees are excited and want to be at for the late night portion. So we want to make sure we pique their interest with that.
That's so good. I appreciate those thoughts. The generational differences, obviously, they don't hold for every single person. Everybody's still a unique individual. But as a generalization, there are things as leaders we've got to be aware of. We can't assume everything is like it's always been because it's just not. And if we don't dial ourselves into what are the people in front of us asking for and what's important to them, we're going to miss it. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Keri, this has been so good. You're so clearly a leader who cares about your team, cares about your business. I think the business is so interesting just in and of itself. It's something that I don't really think about, but now I'm going to, every event I go to now, I'm going to be looking at the tables and the chairs and the linens and thinking like, oh, it's like this or that. So who should reach out to you and what would be the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. Anyone that's interested in putting an event together, we're happy to help design with any rentals, or of course, if anyone has questions or needs some advice, they can reach out, and you can reach out directly to me. I know that you'll have some of that contact info, but just my email, Keri@specialoccasionsmi.com. The best way to reach me. And happy to be a resource.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of the Clarity Advisor Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you would be so kind as to leave a review on the platform you are watching or listening right now, that would be great. 5 stars would be even better. And we'll see you next time on the Clarity Advisor Show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisor Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.